Episode 56 of the Pilot podcast takes off now.
I'm Lauren Gaudian. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing and Recruitment at Lyft.
And my name's Ed Bagdon. I'm the Associate Director of Flight Operations and Safety at Lyft Academy.
What is going on, Avination, and welcome back to the Pilot podcast, episode number 56, featuring Lyft Academy. Lyft Academy is wholly owned by Republic Airways. Lyft Academy also promises you and guarantees you a CFI job to build your hours, and then they also guarantee a first officer job at Republic Airways. Now, thinking about that, and if you want to go the regional route or the airline route, this sounds like a great opportunity for a lot of students. So buckle up and stay tuned for this episode, Avination. You are not going to want to miss this. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave me a review on iTunes. You can let me know what you think on Instagram at PilotThePilot. Check out our Twitter at PilotThePilot. Email me, pilotthepilothq@gmail.com. And please check out our Patreon, patreon.com/PilotThePilot. We have some really cool swag there, so make sure you check that out. And if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, drop me a note, leave me an email, pilotthepilothq@gmail.com. Avination, I don't want to keep you any longer from learning about Lyft Academy. So without further ado, here's Lyft Academy. Lauren and Ed, thanks for coming on the Pilot podcast. I'm excited to have you guys on today and talk a little bit more about Lyft and what Lyft's kind of mission and goal is all about.
Absolutely. We're happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, perfect. So let's just dive right in. First thing, just tell me, what is Lyft? Why did Lyft get started, and kind of the background behind Lyft Academy, right?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Make sure I say it right.
So Lyft Academy is a flight training institution here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are wholly owned and operated by Republic Airways. So our mission is to train the best pilots and make sure that they're airline ready by the time that they start training with us, and continue that on with our technology and our training, manuals through to their time at Republic. The great thing about Lyft is that students receive a job waiting for them whenever they complete their training. They will be first officers at Republic Airways.
Yeah, and you say when you complete their training, so obviously 1,500 hours, so complete their training CFI. Normally after that, CFI, do they work as a CFI at Lyft after they complete all their training?
That's right. Yeah. So not only do they have the guaranteed position at Republic as a first officer, but they have a guaranteed flight instructor position at Lyft that will build their 1,500 hours.
Cool. And then when they become a CFI, I know we'll kind of get back into more of the backstory in a little bit, but just have this question on my mind. But when they become a CFI, do you guys ever envision having too many CFIs, or do you have a plan? Because I know their pilot market's really good right now, but one economic downturn and things could kind of go back to where they were in 2008. But say that worst case scenario happens, would you still hire them as flight instructors, or is there a point where you would stop hiring as flight instructors?
As of our plan right now, we would hire them as flight instructors because our ultimate goal is to get those pilots the experience they need to get them into the right seat of an Embraer jet at Republic. So, unlike traditional flight schools, our bottom line really at Lyft is creating the best trained first officer candidates for Republic Airways as possible.
Definitely. Cool. So where did this whole vision come from Republic? Was Lyft a flight school in Indianapolis already? Or is this kind of the big wigs at Republic talking to each other like, hey, how do we combat this pilot shortage? How do we make sure Republic can survive the shortage that's coming?
Sure. I mean, if you look at the industry, everybody's been talking about the pilot shortage for, a decade or so at this point. And, Republic decided that it was time to kind of take control of our own destiny and go ahead and vertically integrate our supply of pilots. So I think that, we get a lot of great first officers from, our different partners in the industry, whether they're, universities with aviation programs or dedicated flight schools. We get a lot of great pilots, but looking at the demand for pilots in the next decade and beyond, we don't believe that supply is going to be adequate. So Republic decided to make the big step in the industry of basically building from the ground up an aviation training school that is designed to meet the needs of the airline and train pilots using the same standard operating procedures and mentality from day one to make them best suited to enter into the right seat of Republic.
That's awesome. So when they come for their very first flight lesson, it's going to be how Republic operates their cockpit, CRM, kind of the talks and the flows. They're going to get that from the first day, correct?
Absolutely.
That's
so
good.
One of the big differences, obviously, CRM is very important, and we try to emphasize those principles throughout training. However, a Diamond DA-40 or a DA-42 is a single pilot airplane, so
Right.
a lot of it is principles of SRM. However, if you take a look at our normal procedures checklist or our standard operating procedures, even our QRC, our quick reference card, or our QRH for the DA-40, you're going to find more similarities with those documents between the DA-40 and the Embraer 170 than I've ever seen a general aviation or a pilot training operation. We really do operate the DA-40 as much like a Republic Airways E-170 as we possibly can, while remembering that it is a single-engine, piston-driven aircraft, and that it is a single-pilot environment. But
yeah, no, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. My training was, I did part 61 and 141, and there wasn't really a CRM taught, or they didn't really teach you flows and all that stuff. And then I went on to the freight world, and it was kind of, I mean, we had checklists, but freight, you kind of just like do the checklist by memory, and then you back it up when you're tired and make sure you're doing everything correct. But one of the toughest things that I did transitioning to the job I have now was just learning the company, kind of how the company ran things, how the company operated, whether it was the flows, the call outs, the procedures. They kind of are the same, or they're different for every single company, and they all operate differently. They all want you to fly a plane, but they all do it just a little bit differently. So having the ability to kind of not worry about that as they move up and go through the check rides necessarily, or ground school and stuff, that's one of the hardest things, is kind of learning how your company does it. Flying necessarily isn't the hardest part, but it's just adjusting to the words that they specifically want you to say at the specific moments can really kind of help you out at a check ride when they're going up for flying the Embraer.
Exactly.
For sure, yeah. And, we've had a number of milestones so far and a lot of things to really celebrate and be proud of at Lyft. But I think that the milestone that I'm looking forward to the most is when we start to transition our students into in-dock at the airline and getting that feedback. I believe that, for our students, it's not going to necessarily be a new company or new procedures. It's going to be more of a new airplane than anything else. Of course, there's going to be some, things that are unique to 121, but a lot of those we're going to be able to train throughout the 1,500 hours that we have with our students.
Right. No, and I could fly the plane. I could fly an instrument approach just as well as anyone else, but it was just remembering what I need to say at the right time. And then when you get in the mindset of worrying about what you need to say, you kind of forget about that you're flying, and it just kind of all happens at once, and you get behind the airplane, and that's when bad things can happen. So like I said, just knowing all that stuff and the company specific procedures will really, really be an advantage for them.
Sure. If you did a Camera 1, Camera 2 with a Lyft Academy DA-40 shooting an ILS, and then on Camera 2 you had a Republic Embraer 170 shooting the ILS, you'd see the pilots basically saying all of the same things, all of the same call-outs as they proceed through the approach. It's just obviously the Embraer is going to get to the runway
a little faster. Just a little faster. Even just on one engine, it'll still get there faster.
For sure.
Yeah, that is awesome.
We're fortunate with our training programs, Republic and Lyft, being really across the interstate from each other, that we're able to give our students exposure to the Republic training program now already. For instance, last week we took a group of our students on a field trip to the training center, and they were able to speak with our director of flight training and see a little bit of the stages that our pilots at Republic will go through when they get there.
That's cool. No, it's definitely good. That will help ease the mind of kind of knowing what's to come. And it kind of gives them a set checklist necessarily of just checking off boxes, be like, all right, if I do this, then this is the next step. And you have that all the way up until you become a first officer, essentially. So that's really cool. Talk about a little bit about just the struggles.
Because they can see that end goal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Seeing the end goal is huge. Talk a little bit about just creating a flight school. Like, I mean, I know that it's easier said than done. And I know that you guys are really one of the only ones in the industry that are doing this the way you're doing it. So go a little bit about of how you guys kind of put it all together.
So May of 2018, we launched with our press release, along with the state of Indiana, the city of Indianapolis, the airport authority here at Indianapolis as well. And before that, it was really a concept that the four of our leadership team, we got together, and, we bring a lot of great experience because most of us do come from Republic, and we're implementing the successes that we've had in the 121 field at a Part 141 level. So, everything from creating our brand, that, is my job. And we had to come up with something that would attract people that may not have thought of aviation prior. So, everything that we're marketing is to really capture the attention of people that have that explorer mindset, that want to get out there and see the world. So maybe they thought of aviation prior, or maybe they haven't, but now we want them to know that aviation is an opportunity for them. And then on the flight side, I'll let Ed talk about all the work that they did to secure that 141 certification so quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, the process started for me with Lyft about a year ago. I had the opportunity to join up on the project, and it's been a really incredible experience so far being a part of this startup. But, part of it was going out there and getting to fly a lot of really great airplanes from a number of different manufacturers, trying to find the airplane that best fit our operation, our mission of, training airline pilots. And we ended up choosing Diamond Aircraft. They've been a really great partner to us. We love their airplanes. And, it's everything from the diesel-powered engine across our entire fleet, which gives us efficiency. It gives us the single-lever power control, just like you have in a jet. We've got the G1000 NXI avionics. We've got autopilots in all of our aircraft, because I think that for a lot of people coming to the airlines, that's one of the big challenges is learning automation and how to properly use it when it's appropriate, what level of automation, and also the invaluable skill of knowing when to turn it off and actually hand fly the airplane. So that was a big part of it, was finding the right hardware to do it. We backed that up with some really great FSTDs, also produced by Diamond. So they use the actual aircraft fuselage, all the same seats, buttons, switches, avionics. So that creates a great training environment where, you have something that you don't have in the airplane, which is a pause button, as well as the
stop motion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ability to set time of day, weather, and things like microbursts and other things that you can't really simulate in the real world, but we brought that down. I've done microburst training in the level D sims at the airline, but it's not something that I did when I did my initial training. So to be able to do that earlier in the career, to get that mentality going, to be able to recognize things like that and recover appropriately is really important. And then beyond that, basically it was putting together our team. We have a great chief instructor. He comes from the academic world. His name's Ben Jaffe. So he was able to bring that experience to us. And beyond that, basically getting the manuals written, as well as our TCOs, and working closely with our local FSDO to ensure that obviously safety is always number one, but also showing that the training program we put together resulted in a rather quick provisional pilot school certification under Part 141 as of our start date in the beginning of September. So we were able to get all of that set up, and that was basically the fundamentals of putting together a pilot school from the ground up. And
no big deal. That's awesome. Nothing happens fast with the FAA, so you guys definitely did a good job. So you started, and the whole kind of brainchild of this was in May of 2018, correct?
That was our official announcement that we were going to become a flight school. Really, the brainchild was about a little over a year ago, like Ed mentioned, when they started searching the different aircraft. Okay.
And then May to September, is September when you guys got your first students? Or is that when the flight school opened for business?
That's right. We had our orientation day for our first class on September 4th of 2018.
How many pilots did you guys have?
We have just over 50 on site right now.
Nice. And
we have monthly orientations. So come Monday on February 4th, I think it is, we'll have a few more start with us.
Awesome. What's kind of, so what's your pitch to a student? So I know that you kind of pitched, you said you're looking for explorers and people that love to explore and travel and stuff like that. But with someone that has so many options to choose for a flight school, and someone that can just do so many things, where they can stay in their state or go to you guys up in Indianapolis, what is your main pitch? What is kind of what are you looking for in a student necessarily? And how do you guys get these students to come to you?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly the point. There are a lot of great options out there for flight training. So it really depends on the person to find out what is a best fit for them. And hopefully Lyft is a good fit for a lot of people. And, one unique thing that we can offer that really no one else can is that at the end of the day, the day that they start their training, they have a guaranteed job waiting for them as a commercial airline pilot at Republic. So that's something that we can offer that no one else can. But
it's not a bad little mic drop to have at the end. Be like, oh, by the way.
Right. We start out with that and then we continue to compensate. But, I think our staff that we have, from day one that they're training for the career that they're going to ultimately be in, that's a sell in itself. And the technology that we use, we have brand new aircraft. They come right from the production line and we've got 50 of them on order. So if someone's looking for, the quality of the aircraft that they're flying and the safety of the program, I think we've got something that, other programs, are striving for as well.
What's the timeline that you guys have kind of told these students that come here? Be like, what's the timeline from getting your private to all the way up to finishing your training to getting 1,500 hours and then being at an FO or Republic? Have you kind of created a timeline that if everything goes perfect, if you pass all your check rides, if the weather's amazing, if it's not negative 75 degrees outside, what is the perfect timeline that you guys have set up for that you tell these students that come to you?
Students are expected to complete their training within a year. Okay. So that takes them through CFII. Then from there, they transition into the role of a flight instructor here at Lyft, where we hope that within about 12 to 18 months, they can build to their 1,500 hours and then roll right into a new higher class at Republic. Okay.
And then do they have, so we said they have a guaranteed job. Do they still have to interview, or is an interview they're kind of already in the Republic family and you kind of can be like, they might not fit. You know what I mean? Like, is there a chance that you could be in the program and they could get all the ratings, but they might not be the best fit for Republic? Is that a possibility, or does everyone automatically get that job?
So the way we've approached that is by kind of making the admissions process for our school a little different than what you see with other, pilot training academies in the industry. So right. Anybody that's interested in coming to Lyft, they start by applying online on our website. And then following that, they would schedule an actual interview at Lyft. And part of that is a computer-based aptitude test. It's called the Compass Assessment. It's made by a company called EPST. And it tests a number of different skills, things like hand-eye coordination, math, spatial orientation, a lot of things that have been proven that if people have aptitudes in those areas or strengths in those areas, that they're likely to be successful in the actual technical part of flight training. Mm-hmm. The other really important part of that day when a student comes to Lyft after their application is an actual one-on-one interview with one of our admissions recruiters at Lyft. And that helps make sure that they're a good cultural fit for Republic. So Republic, right. I've worked there since 2012 as part of the company. And it has a really strong culture with really great people. People are our number one asset at Republic. So we want to make sure that the people we bring into Lyft are the right people, that they're going to fit in. So we test technical skills and we test people skills. And only the applicants who are able to successfully make it through both of those batteries basically are offered a position in a class state at Lyft. So this kind of aptitude testing and interviewing is something that I personally haven't seen at other academies in the U.S.
No, definitely not. And I like that because, you can teach someone how to fly a plane. You can teach pretty much anyone how to fly a plane, but you don't know. The main wild card is kind of how they are as a person and how they interact with the crew and how they interact in certain situations. So the fact that you can not just give this opportunity to everyone, and it's kind of like it's like a business interview. It's like this is your interview for flight school could potentially be your interview for your first job as flying a jet. So this is a big deal. And I like that you guys are selective, and I like that you're taking the time to take the necessary steps so you can kind of make sure that this is who you want to have in the program, and this is who you want to have flying at Republic. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be flying a couple, tens, hundreds of people around. So, this is an important step for Republic to make sure they get the right people that they want.
Right.
Say I just started my training. I did part 61. I already have my private, and I just found out about Lyft. I never heard about it before. Is it possible to come transfer over with my private and continue training, or do you guys prefer to train them from zero and take them all the way to their CFII?
We do have several students who have started their training with Lyft at various points in their training. So we have students who will start at instrument, start at commercial, and they will have tuition that's prorated to that amount.
Okay. So you do then accept okay, that's good. That's good to know, because like you said, you are a new school. So someone might be like, hey, that would be perfect. I don't want to miss out on that. So that's cool. And talking about tuition, do you guys have a set amount that you tell them up front? Be like, hey, this is the price from 0 to CFI double or CFII, and this is how much you're going to expend the whole way out through before you become an FO at Republic?
That's right. We do have a set tuition price, and that's $65,000. So that $65,000 is subsidized by Republic as well as the state of Indiana. So we're fortunate to offer students an all-inclusive cost that includes not only their flight training, their check rides, but also any supplies and equipment that they'll need throughout their year of training at Lyft.
Dang. And then, so you're probably going to get a lot of people moving from out of state. Is there kind of like a campus that you would have for them to live, or is it kind of find a hotel, or what kind of process do they go through to look for housing and stuff?
They do have to secure their own housing. Okay. However, we work with several apartment complexes in the area of the Indianapolis airport. And so housing in the Midwest is pretty affordable. I think the cost of living is fair here. Yeah. So we have applications from every state in the U.S. And we've got students who have relocated from East Coast, West Coast, as well as different areas in the Midwest as well. Yeah.
And I mean, that's one thing that people don't necessarily think about. They might hear, I know when I got my first jobs, I was so excited about the job, and I was like, crap, I have to find a place to live. So it's the same thing with flight training. It's kind of like, oh, I found this awesome place to do my flight training. It's like, all right, well, now you got to find a place for rent. You got to find a place to live, and that can add to expenses, and that can add to a lot of things that might hold people back. So it's cool that you guys think about that and get the apartments to kind of work with each other and kind of find a good deal. But $65,000 and all materials included and check rides and stuff, that's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. You can't go to ATP or pretty much any other flight school and spend that kind of money. It's pretty good.
Yeah, especially with the quality of aircraft that we're flying as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of flight schools are operating 30-year-old 172s that are drinking oil like crazy.
Yeah, it's really it's a deal or a value that hasn't been seen in the industry for what I would say is a long time. I mean, the program has more value than where I did my training a decade ago. So
I think we can all say that.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, for most of the pilots that I've spoke with in the industry, whether it was Republic pilots or friends, associates at other carriers, everybody seemed pretty enthused about what we're doing at Lyft. And the one recurring comment I always hear is, I wish that was around when I did my training.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree. I'm kind of thinking the same thing right now. I'm kind of like, how much did I spend? What did I do? It's like, where does this add up for me? But no, I mean, I have a lot of people that ask me and message me, hey, like, what's a good flight school? Why should I go here? What should I look into a flight school? And I kind of think that you're hitting everything. You want to see where you have the opportunity to go get a job, or is it just a standard flight school where you're not even going to be able to be a CFI there because it's so small? Is it a school that doesn't necessarily have a good track record with maintenance or even people passing check rides, or just you need to look at more than just the price? And it looks like that the cheaper you go, usually you're going to be sacrificing on equipment, CFIs, or just the knowledge that you're going to attain. And then the more expensive, you're going to get maybe better training, better aircraft, but you don't necessarily know where you're going to go after that. Where your school seems to be the right price with the right aircraft and kind of has the right mission of getting you to where you want to go for a job.
Absolutely. We're really proud of what we do here at Lyft, and I would encourage anyone to take a look at our website or even come see us at our hangar in Indianapolis. And we're always excited to share what we're doing here. We take a lot of pride in it, and I think that you'd be hard pressed to really find anywhere where we're not industry leading. Yeah. Whether it's the aircraft, whether it's the maintenance, whether it's our current Part 141 check ride pass rate of 100%.
There you go.
We're very proud about what we do, and it's exciting, and I think it shows. It shows the pride across the entire staff and of the instructor group and the student group. The excitement about what we're doing.
You said the current 141 check ride rate of 100%. It just makes me think that, like, if I was the next guy taking my check, I'd be like, all right, I can't be the first one to fail the check ride in the history of Lyft.
Pressure's on.
Pressure is
little
on.
Motivation in the back of your head's always a good thing.
I know. Hey, you got that right. Little kick in the butt never hurt anyone.
Right.
That's awesome. All right. So here's kind of my story was my dad flies for the airlines. I always wanted to be an airline pilot, mainly because that's the only route that I kind of thought that you could do. I never really thought about corporate, freight, kind of the route that I went down. I always thought it was CFI, regionals to majors, but I did aerial survey to freight to corporate. So I kind of did the complete opposite of that. And I didn't realize that until I got into my flight training and kind of got my commercial, where I realized that I just love general aviation. So what happens when someone like me comes through your school where I'm a CFII, I'm training people, and I'm like, hey, like, I don't really know if I want to go down the line of being a regional pilot for Republic or even fly for the majors. I want to go fly for a NetJets, or I want to go fly for UPS or FedEx. Kind of what happens in that situation?
So we do require our students to commit to Republic as a first officer and then upgrade to captain for 5 years.
Okay.
So they know going into it, and they sign, an enrollment agreement knowing that they will fly for us for 5 years or pay back the subsidized portion of their tuition.
Okay. So they'll never have to pay more than the $65,000 though. So that's always going to be the final price.
So yes, if they choose to leave, it would actually be $85,000 that they would pay back.
There you go.
Or pay total. But we try to make sure and counsel the students when they're looking at lift to make sure that the airlines is their end goal, or at least a goal long enough for 5 years.
Yeah. For sure. It's one of those things that it's like they're brand new in aviation. And this was me too. I mean, you don't really realize how many opportunities you have other than just being an airline pilot. So it's one thing that you think, that's what you want to do for the rest of your career. But as you kind of build your time and build your experiences, you don't necessarily know where you're going to go. But I think that for $65,000 and a guaranteed job at Republic, I think I would have probably gone that route and stuck it out. Definitely for the 5 years. And once you're in for 5 years, you're probably going to want to stick around for a little longer.
Well, yeah, 5 years. I mean, it flies by, no pun intended. But then also, Republic pilots, we have several who go the cargo route from, the airline flying. So FedEx, UPS, Atlas are all options for our pilots afterwards too.
Yeah, I have a buddy that's a first officer at Republic, and that's one of his goals is to get on with UPS, FedEx, or Atlas. So it's like you said, there's other people that do that, and you can still have those opportunities at your fingertips. So that's cool.
Absolutely, yeah. We think 5 years is a good number for us. It allows us to make sure that the students that we invest in are able to come join us and help Republic as the operation, as the team for 5 years, and then after that the world is their oyster.
So yeah, it's interesting when we bring up 5 years. So I could see one student maybe the battle that they would have of choosing this flight school and choosing another flight school might be that one, they think they can get their time faster somewhere else. And two, I don't necessarily want to say they're probably brainwashed in thinking that they could go somewhere and flow into a major airline faster in 5 years at sitting at Republic. I'm sure you guys have kind of done research on the 5 years, and have you realized that maybe 5 years matches the same amount of time as you would sit in a flow to work up to a major airline? Is that kind of like the science behind the 5 years, or was it just a number you guys chose?
That was not exactly the thought process when deriving the number, but it's basically comes back to a general return on investment concept for us as far as what we're investing in the student, how much we're contributing to their training, and what it takes for us as an airline to be able to kind of recoup that. So I'd say that was the main driver. And Republic and Lyft, I think one great thing about it is that they've always been very transparent when it comes to speaking to potential candidates, whether it's Republic speaking to potential first officer candidates or Lyft speaking to potential students. We've never really been in the business of promising things that are speculative or using our crystal balls too much. We like to speak more in things that we know and that we can back up and we're confident in.
Definitely.
So I'm actually not sure if there's a 5 year flow right now. I don't think there is, but I'd have to look that up.
I don't think there's a 5. I think flows have the time has gone up on those as they've come out. Obviously, as more regional airlines sign up for them, you're going to have more more pilots that are looking to go that route. And so that's going to slow down the flow as well. But one thing that I know people that choose Republic for is because they don't have any flows. So they can pretty much go to any airline. They're not necessarily guaranteed to go to American or Delta or United. So they can kind of choose, just like you said earlier, the world is their oyster. They can go anywhere that they want.
Right. And the pilot shortage honestly may make that even more of a flexible option, because if, the main lines need as many pilots as they're saying, they may be hiring well outside their flow, and our pilots will be just as competitive for those positions.
Definitely. Yeah. And once they're done with the 5 years, and there we go, they can go wherever they want. I still can't get over $65,000. It's like people, Embry-Riddle charges, I can't accurately say, I'm just going to throw out a number because I feel like this is just what it would be, but I feel like it's like 150 grand. So you guys are less than half of what that they charge for their flight training. And there's no way that you can tell me that what you get at Embry-Riddle is going to be better than what you guys might be able to offer at Lyft. So I just can't get 65,000. That's unbelievable.
All I'll say is that the quality of training that's performed at Lyft is absolutely of the highest level in the industry, and that the value is something that, like I said, we're proud of, and that we think is something that the industry desperately needs. So,
and our goal is to make flying as accessible as possible. We want to make sure that we're bringing as many people into the cockpit who wouldn't have had a chance otherwise.
Right.
So we want to make the cockpit a more diverse place and give people that have dreamed about becoming a pilot actually the ability to do so.
What's been the feedback from the students that you have right now? Have they all been enjoying it? And I know that they probably don't know much else, but have they been happy with everything that they've seen and gone through?
I think that the students who don't have previous experience, of course, flying airplanes is pretty great. Mm-hmm. When I think back to my days as a student. So if I had to say there was one gripe so far, I think that the weather in Indianapolis has been tough over the winter.
Yeah.
But, we've done some historical analysis on the weather, and we should be getting into some better flying weather here soon. And when we talk about the 12-month length of the program, that is a length that was designed considering things like the weather that we face in the Midwest. So we're confident that we'll be able to stay on our planned timeline.
Yeah.
And
if you
obviously, our program, if we had summer weather all the time, would probably be quoted less than 12 months. But we want to make sure that we, again, are transparent and honest with everybody. And then we do have some students that have had previous training experiences, and some people that came to us and, we're interested in Lyft because, they were tired of maybe having their flights canceled or delayed due to maintenance issues or aircraft availability or this and that and the other thing. And, something that they love about Lyft is that, our fleet and our maintenance are incredibly reliable when the weather's ready to cooperate. Our instructors are there. We have the resources they need to be successful, and that now they're getting in and passing check rides, whereas maybe at other flight training providers they didn't have as much success.
No, and this is one question. So I remember when I went to Ohio State, and that's where I did my 141, and it was always an issue of trying to get an airplane, to try to fly an airplane. There's always you had 5 people that are lined up for this hour block. Do you guys have similar issues right now? Do you have you found a good way to schedule these aircraft and to get these students in and make sure that they all are flying and no one's sitting on the ground when they have a chance to fly?
Absolutely. We operate our aircraft from about 6 in the morning till around 11 p.m. And we structure our instructor and student loads based on aircraft. So aircraft are the controlling factor in how we build out our class sizes and our instructor cadre. So we're never double booking aircraft, and we try to keep a flying spare in play at all times. So, aircraft availability is not a substantial driver for flight cancellations or training cancellations at all. The main driver, again, for the past few months has only been winter weather, things like icing conditions.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So I did my private pilot license at Ohio State, and then I moved down south and did everything in Charlotte, North Carolina at a 61 school, and I was able to fly in the winter time and fly at like 4,000 feet in solid IFR and not have to worry about icing. And it's like, this is amazing. So I know what you mean about flying in the Midwest and how it's not necessarily always the easiest thing to do in the wintertime, but it definitely makes up for it in the future as well. And plus you learn a lot more because you learn about why you're not flying. It gives you more chances to kind of do a little groundwork when maybe you might need to brush up on some other things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be on the ground. I think that a student should definitely take advantage of any opportunity they have to dive into the books or maybe in the sim or do some other things as well.
Absolutely. And as a 12-month program in this area, you get all 4 seasons, which I think is important. In the summer, you get exposure to things like thunderstorms, summer flying, as well as the performance hits you're going to take with high temperatures, high humidity. And then during the winter, you get to operate and learn about looking at forecasts and observations and then determining when it's appropriate to fly. So I think that experience is actually invaluable at the end of the day. And another thing that we do to kind of expose students to something that is in some senses more of a challenge but really prepares them is we are based at Indianapolis International Airport, which I've noticed has turned some heads in the industry when they say you put your flight school at an international airport. But I think that it provides tremendous value. From day one of your private, you're talking to clearance delivery, ground control tower, departure, approach. And if that's all you know from day one, that really kind of makes it makes you a lot stronger with regard to that and makes it a lot easier throughout the rest of your career. So we found it to work really well. We also get the experience, we'll take generally 2 students out with 1 instructor. So one student has the opportunity to sit in the back seat and observe the flying student and the instructor, which obviously when you're not in the hot seat operating the airplane, it's a lot easier to see errors coming from a distance out. And,
Don't do that.
Exactly. And then we'll generally go to an uncontrolled field to do a student swap. So helps us pick up some efficiency and gives you the experience both, making position reports as well as flying in a Class Charlie airspace, which is a little more complex than most schools have.
Yeah, I think flying in a Class Charlie is huge. I mean, when I got my aerial survey job, I flew in a Delta. I never really flew to a Charlie or Bravo, but when I did aerial survey, you're just kind of like, you have to go where the plane needs to be. So you got to talk to clearance delivery, you got to talk to ground, you got to talk to approach, you got to talk to center, you got to fly through busy airspace, and you really have to be on your game and you really have to know how to communicate. So the fact that you are teaching them that early enough, which at a 61 school at an uncontrolled field, I'm sure there are some schools that do a good job of giving you exposure to that, but it's kind of on you. It's not necessarily, you don't have to do it. Where at Indianapolis, you have to do it. You have to talk to all those. You have to go through all those steps to ensure that you can take off, to ensure that you can have a good flight. And that's really going to help prepare them for the future.
That's how we see it.
Definitely. Well, cool. Let's see if I have any other questions. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty good for questions for that. Do you guys have anything else that you want to touch on at all before we go?
We invite you to come check out our hangar anytime.
Yeah.
Next time you're in Indianapolis, definitely stop by.
That'd be awesome. What hangar or where are you guys located on the field?
We are on the northeast side of the hangar.
Okay.
Or of the airport, sorry.
Northeast side of the hangar, yeah.
Perfect. We're near Signature on the northeast side of runway 3214.
Okay. Does Indianapolis usually want you guys to use 32 and 14, or do they let you go they want you to take off east and west?
Honestly, we prefer to use 3214. The taxi from our ramp to the end of 32 is like a 30-second taxi. So if we can pick up that efficiency, that's always great. However, sometimes we use the parallels. So it really depends on the day. But we've got a great working relationship with our air traffic control in Indianapolis, and we talk to them on a weekly basis to make sure we're identifying any challenges or opportunities to enhance the operation. So
how is the FedEx rush coming to factor at all with you guys working out of there? Has that hindered your training at all, or do you guys kind of shut down operations when they're coming in at night?
With part of our dual paired operation, we've got an afternoon FedEx push where they come in. And what we do is we actually send our instructors, students out, again, 2 at a time, and they'll go out for about a 4-hour block. So they'll depart, they'll go fly around, they'll swap elsewhere, and by the time they come back in, that push is complete. And as I said earlier, our normal hours of operation are about 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. So that keeps us away from most of the night operations for FedEx.
Yeah, that's good. Stay away. When I flew freight, we had to go pick up some freight in Indianapolis and where else? In Louisville for UPS and in Memphis where the main FedEx hub is. And trying to get in there in the rush, it's even in a Pilatus, they're like, get out of the way. We need to do something else. It's like, I think I had to do 3 or 4 turns just to try to land in Memphis, and eventually like, all right, enough of this. And I had to go land at a different airport to go ahead and have them send the freight there. So it's definitely interesting when that rush comes.
Sure. We're always focused on being good neighbors at the Indianapolis airport. So we try to keep ourselves clear of that.
You guys are smart for sure. Well, perfect. Well, before we go, I want you guys to go ahead and kind of just say every way that they can get all the information on Lift Academy. Say a website, say everything you can possibly think, your emails, telephone number, of how they can get more information, or even how they can apply.
Yeah, definitely check out our website. You can locate us at www.flywithlift.com. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at flywithlift as well. And then if you're interested or have any questions, our main email address would be explore@flywithlift.com.
Perfect. And do you guys have a set number of students you're looking for, or is it kind of as many as you can get?
So when we're at full capacity, we'll be training 300 to 350 students here at the Indianapolis site.
Dang.
And it's a lot of students. We've got large goals.
Yeah.
But then monthly, we've got about 15 to 20 students starting with us.
Okay.
And we're filling right now. We've got our classes filled through May. So if people are interested in apply now, get through that interview process so we can, schedule the class date as soon as possible.
Perfect. That's awesome. And then I guess my last question would be, as you guys grow, would there ever be a need to have you ever thought about expanding outside of Indianapolis and, I don't know, maybe going somewhere warmer and doing a site down there? Or is it just going to want to keep it small, want to keep it close to Republic and keep it as controlled as possible?
Right now our focus is on our operation in Indianapolis, but we always think big at Lyft. So what the future holds is to be determined, but right now our main focus is Indianapolis.
Well, perfect. Well, Ed, Lauren, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate you sharing more about Lyft and and the opportunities that students will have there, and just the price is just amazing, and the fact that you can get on right away with Republic Airlines as an FO is pretty amazing. So I think this will be very beneficial for people to hear more about the flight school and the who, the what, the why, and the how they're going to get their training done. And I'm just very, very thankful for you guys coming on, and I look forward to talking to you guys again and talk more about what your students are doing outside of Lyft and how they've done at the airlines or freight, wherever they do decide to go after their 5 years at Republic. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks so much, Justin. That was fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you. And that is a wrap of episode number 56. Avination, thank you guys for listening to today's episode. I think it was great to hear about Lyft Academy. I think it's great to hear about different flight schools that are out there, price points, their plan and their goal, and how they think they can attract students to get there. I don't know about you guys, but the idea of having a guaranteed CFI job, a guaranteed FO job at Republic, and only having to give 5 years back to Republic, I think that's a pretty good deal. But as always, make sure you do all your research. Make sure you find the right school for you. Lyft might be the right school for someone, but it might not be the right school for someone else. So make sure you do all of your research, contact students that are there, contact former students, read online, just, like I said, just do your research. Make sure that you find the perfect school for you. Lyft might be good for you, ATP might be good for you, or your local Part 61 or even your university school might be the best option for you. So always do your research. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And as always, happy flying.